Here we go. Weebles wobble.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Drag Racing Friends. I am here with my friend Barrett Green. Barrett, how are you doing today?
Hanging out, just hanging out, enjoying life right now.
We've got a bunch of cool stuff that is in store for this episode. And some of it's going to be surprising to some of the audience, but not to you and I. I mean, Barrett, you and I have grown up in the drag racing world. We've been around this for a very long time. You know, I grew up in Northern California as an NHRA drag racer with my dad running stock eliminator and that kind of thing. And then, you know, later on in life doing some street racing and getting into Hot Rod Drag Week and those kinds of things. But for the people at home, give a little bit of background on you and how you got into this.
So for my family, they were into drag racing, but as far as my personal, my dad and my mom, no drag racing whatsoever. My very first track I ever went to was Kennedale Drag Strip, which is no longer happening there. And I was in high school and pretty much just kind of, always liked to work on cars and just met people throughout drag racing. My wife and I went on our first date at a drag strip and stuff, and just sort of grew my, prowess from there, kind of started promoting races and announcing, and that led to the Big Hat Mafia brand. And here we are today where this is it. It's sole proprietorship. I'm, out living the dream, as, some people would say. It's been a little tough the past few months, but other than that, that first time you're sitting there and you hear a car just zing it through the water box, I mean, it's going to make this past month or so, it's going to be all worth it.
Yeah, I agree. I grew up in Northern California, like I said, going to Fremont Drag Strip, running small tire cars before they were called small tire cars.
Yeah.
The original small tire drag racing was NHRA Pure Stock and Stock Eliminator with 7-inch slicks. Now they run a 930-15, which is a 9-inch wide slick. Still small tire drag racing, standing on the bumper, all that. And that's the kind of car that I grew up racing. My 69 Camaro was a Stock Eliminator car, ran it on the street a lot. And have been all over the place, been fortunate enough to been at a lot of racetracks all over the country and got to participate in some cool events. I've gotten to drive a lot of neat race cars. I've driven everything from pro stock on down. And I want to drive some fuel cars. I think that would be a good time, but haven't got the opportunity with that yet. But I think I'm like you, Barrett, and everybody else on, that I've got a million projects and only one of them runs at any given time. How quick have you been anyway in yours?
So as far as actual time slipness, the fastest I've ever been was like a 608, and my S10 was a iron-headed small block. I bought it from a guy to street race with and was supposed to go to a street race, and they ended up not letting me in because I was too fast. And so I said, you know what? We went to Kennedale, unloaded off the trailer, and I think it just had, like a Speed Tech plate on it or something, and just really kind of just getting used to it. I'd done street racing stuff before, and for me, the street race stuff is what kind of a lot of people, it's real simple. You pull up, flashlight, go. The track, you've got the tree and all the other stuff. So that was really kind of like, hey, let's get used to all this stuff. Super horrible light. I don't even think I turned the nitrous on until, halfway through. I was like, oh, I better, push this button now. So it went like a 608, 115, 116 miles an hour. And, the fastest guy that they had racing in the race went like 550s before. So it's one of those deals like, I know a lot of people have been 4s and 3s and all that stuff. And to me, it doesn't really matter how fast you are. You race at the level that you can afford to race. For me at the time,
I agree with you completely.
Yeah. And I'm more of a builder.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my buddy Michael Hollis, he's a radio racer and stuff, and he always give me a hard time. Is a truck running? Like, I am more fun just ordering parts and sitting out there and putting them together. Like, and my truck was ready to go for almost a year. I was just too busy doing all sorts of other racing. Kid bought it and went street racing, and I think it's probably paid for half of the truck by now with as much money as he's won with it. I just enjoy putting them together. I don't so much racing. I mean, I'm obviously not a driver mod, so, they don't really work out.
It's funny, though, that you say that, because I tell everybody all the time, it doesn't matter whether you have a 13-second car, a 15-second car, an 8-second car, whatever. Go out there and have a good time with it. And, it's interesting how much the world has changed over the last several years with regards to drag racing as we know it today. It used to be that it was just sanctioning body racing. Back in the day, it was NHRA or IHRA, and then there was ADRL, obviously, and the PSCA and all of these other sanctioning bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, when Hot Rod Magazine's Drag Week came out, streetcar racing became a much bigger deal than it ever had been before. And I'd been in the sevens before that. I got my pro stock license. I raced a lot of stuff, but I didn't own anything that was that fast. But when they started Drag Week, that's when I was lucky enough to meet our next guest, Larry Larson, who everybody knows for his Chevy 2 and more recently for the S10 and the Cadillac. Larry and I met on the very first Drag Week, and man, we had a really good time doing a lot of stupid stuff that first week. So welcome to the show, Larry Larson. We are glad to have you here.
How are you guys?
Doing good. How is the world in Missouri right now?
Right now it's pretty windy, but wouldn't know that because everybody's supposed to be staying at home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Supposed to
well,
be.
Larry, we met, like I said, first Drag Week. We've done a jillion of them together. We built the S10 together and went on Drag Week together. Together we've seen a lot of this morphosis that led to what's happened the last 5 years in the drag racing community. But when you had the Chevy 2, back in the day when it was pink and had the roots blower on it and stuff, did you ever believe that it would get to the level it's at today?
I don't think anybody did, especially Freiberger.
Yeah.
I remember him standing up there on the back of that tailgate, spouting off that day. If Warren Johnson thinks he can bring his pro stock car in here and make it 1,500 miles, then bring it on, And so I guarantee he didn't have a clue where things would end up. But technology, racetracks, aftermarket parts, just everything has really brought things to the future.
It has, and it's pretty dramatic, and we're gonna delve into some of the no prep world and what that world has become because of those statements made by Freiberger and everybody else that have led to all these street race events like Drag Week or Rocky Mountain Race Week. But before we get into that, we want to go into a segment that we call the Insanity segment here on the show, where we show something funny, something entertaining that, has to do with whatever our particular topic is for the week. So right now, both of you have a link to a YouTube video that Barrett was kind enough to find and share with everybody of some of the extremes that go into the prep world of drag racing and just how sticky they can be.
Oh, mine's the lawnmower 3.0. Skip ad. This is actually the one that I thought of whenever we talked about this.
Yeah, exactly. I got both cars backing up.
I watched this live. It was amazing.
Frankie's the man. I think it's Frankie's birthday tomorrow, actually. I saw it on Facebook.
Here we go. Weebles wobble.
Oh! Frankie's down.
Oh. I like how he doesn't miss a beat, though. He eats shit and then's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get back and just keep on lining the car up."
Yeah, exactly. That's Frankie. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I watched
I
that
gotta
live and I was
watch
like,
the
"Ooh."
past now too.
Oh.
I mean, it was too good not to watch.
Definitely.
It's hard not to be embarrassed when you're the guy that bails like that on the sticky racetrack, but Frankie jumps right back up and starts backing or getting the car lined up for the run. I can't.
Oh yeah, without even missing a beat. We That was at SGMP where the lights out, where the video is taken, and you almost have like a tally sheet of how many people lose shoes up there.
Oh, it's insane. And it always cracks me up because these two worlds, again, are so diametrically opposed, right? You got this spray all the glue in the world drag radial racing, and then big tire racing, which falls into the prep and no prep category. But I've been around plenty of sticky drag strips, but drag radial stuff is a whole other level. And these guys just find themselves beat all to hell at the end of the weekend when guys are falling down and, ripping their shoes apart and everything else, which is why this year I had to build the radial flops as it was really a joke so that Lyle would laugh about it. And that we could have some fun on camera, but they worked so incredibly well that I've had a bunch of requests by a bunch of people to get their own radial prep flops. So Larry, you weren't there, so I'll tell you about them. These are a set of my normal flip-flops that I always wear, except I made another sole for them that had modified and customized golf spikes on the bottom of them that then were glued to my regular flip-flops so that you could walk around. And dude, there wasn't a single person on the property that could walk around on that drag strip as good as I could. And I was in flops, and everybody is staring at it going, this dude is about to bust his ass. And it was no problem whatsoever. It was awesome.
That's hilarious. As you started telling that story, I thought, I'll bet he got some sort of spike or something on the bottom of it, so it didn't have any surface area.
Yes, exactly. Because that's the whole deal. I mean, everybody knows you got to wear shoes that are the least amount of surface area as possible. And you know how much I hate shoes. So, and there it's Georgia, so anything goes. You can do whatever you want. So it's the Wild West. So we had fun with it. Now, I think there were plenty of people that got pictures of me wearing those and Barrett wearing his American flag onesie. So, Barrett, I am happy to get my picture taken with you under most circumstances. I do not want another picture with you in the onesie. I'm just saying.
Why not? Are you afraid that somebody might talk you into wearing one or what? I mean, Larry knows. Larry's seen me at Armageddon and stuff.
I've seen him in that thing. It looks like something's getting ready to jump out.
I know. It ain't right, dude. It is not right. I mean, I love you and I'll do anything for you, my friend, but dude, no way. That is just too damn much. I'm seeing things that I don't want to see. I can't unsee.
Yeah, I did have to stuff a sock in my underwear though, just so, be like, well, look at that. There you go. But man, it's kind of one of those deals, Larry's, seen me at Armageddon and some of the other, the No Prep King deals and stuff. And, I'm not a booth guy. I'm not a booth announcer. I like to be out in the crowd and, I got some flair. I like to be a little extra. And man, if you want to be, extra, wear a onesie because people are just like, my favorite thing is whenever the chicks are like, hey babe, take a picture with us, and so I'm like taking a picture with them. And then it's like they're having their dude take the picture. It's like, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. You bring up Armageddon, right? The no prep scene has just exploded. Okay. We touched on it a little bit when we were talking about all the streetcar racing that Larry and I have done together. So let's dive into this a little bit. Larry, give everybody a little bit of a rundown. I'll give a little bit, but then give some people some more info on your background. Obviously, chassis builder. You've been building cars for a very long time. Larson Race Cars in Oak Grove, Missouri. You built the Chevy 2, and as you said, nobody really expected it to go as quick as it has. When it got rebuilt and turned into the silver and gray car instead of the pink car. Twin turbo big block Chevrolet, the first legitimate streetcar in the 60s. I was there with you at Streetcar Super Nationals for that, been all over the country with that car running in the low 7s and went out with a very specific purpose to run in the 6s there. Then a few years later, you and I got together and you had some ideas and I had some crazy ideas and we built the S10 together. And the S10, a big source of controversy everywhere it's ever been. But our whole goal was to run the fives in that car in the quarter. And we did again at Vegas, and ran in the fives. It was one of the most epic moments. I mean, building that thing was a crazy year out of our lives. But running in the fives and doing what we did in that thing was just nuts. And honestly, as famous as you were then, everything you've done since has made you even more of a household name. I mean, tell us a little bit about what it is that got you there.
Well, it's that Chevy 2 I've had since 1988. It was a back half car. I still got video of that thing in Great Bend, Kansas. I dialed on at 1120 with a single 4-barrel 468 and a Doug Nash 5-speed in it. So it's been a huge swing through the years of what it's morphed into. But just like when I showed up, I didn't know anything about Drag Week until probably a month before it came off, and a buddy of mine come up and said, "Hey, you're going to go to this deal that starts in Kansas City." And I said, "I don't have a clue about it." So got to looking at it, and I thought, boy, this is perfect, because my Chevy 2 had, in the days of the late 90s with the fastest streetcar stuff, they were getting fast then, or they were fast then. I remember going to Orlando in the late 90s and watching them down there and do the 30-mile cruise, and Christensen and Moran and all the crazies, trying to drive those things. And so watching those guys was really cool, but they still weren't actual street cars. They were race cars that they forced to drive 30 miles.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So with the Chevy 2, it was something, even when I first built it, it was a back half car. Shoot, I'd jump in it, drive 250 miles to Denver to go to a NHRA division race and help, and then turn around and drive it home. And so it's always been something that was fun to drive, and I enjoy driving. So that's never changed. It's just, it got sped up and sped up and sped up. Well, when Drag Week came about, it was to the point where I wanted something that had run in the 8s at 150 on pump gas. And so I built that thing as a 1471 blown Lenco equipped piece, and it did just that. So we went there, and everybody thought I'd lost my mind and fell off my rocker, and there was no way that anybody was going to drive that crazy blown thing. And I know you and I met that year, and you thought I was cheating. Hot Rod thought I was cheating. They had Rob Canan follow me from St. Louis to Bowling Green on day 2, which I didn't realize at the time. But so that whole thing, it just went from running in the 8s to the 7s to the 6s and stereo on, and just like when we drove it down on the strip, after we ran 690s out there, just to prove a point, but it's still something that's fun to just jump in and drive somewhere.
There was a pretty rowdy race car the first year with Carl Scott. That was the one that they should have been looking at.
Well, Carl Steele, Carl was there, and Phil was there with the purple car, and there was a small block car, and that thing ran impressively well. So the plan was, they were giving away free nitrous that first year, and I got in an argument with Freiberger. I said, "You're not going to let the racetrack sell us gasoline, or race gas, but you're going to let Top Cams give away free nitrous." And
which was a bullshit scenario, and the first of many, by the way.
So I just kind of said, "Screw this! I'm going to give you the bird. I'm going to run it on pump gas all week long, and if it goes 8 anything, I'm jumping in it. I'm hauling ass," because nobody done that. And that first year, it didn't start in stock in the same place. So it started in Kansas City, went to St. Louis, Bowling Green. Where'd we go? The
Milan?
No, North.
Where'd we go? God, now
we ended up in Martin.
Yes.
So we ended up in Martin, Michigan for the final day. And my plan was then is that if I made it all week, I was going to swap pulleys and get some gas brought in and show everybody what it'd run, make 5 runs back to back to back, and just show everybody. And it rained, and we didn't think we were going to get a run, and finally got to run. And So it was pretty comical. Carl rebuilt his stuff at Bowling Green that night. Finally got to run, swap pulleys, put fuel in it. Went out there, went 838, 155 or 60 or something, 165 maybe. And so then Carl and Phil went out there and burned their stuff up trying to outrun.
Yeah.
So it was just hilarious. And that's how I got to meet Brian Loans too, because remember I threw Brian in the car while we were waiting for the track to dry out and took him out on the highway about $1.65, and he about pissed down one leg.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, and the back then, that first year, nobody knew what to expect from any of the classes. So you also had like Jim in the blue truck that was doing things that nobody had heard of. And Kyle from 1320 Video, when it was him in his basement with one camera goofing off, there were like 10 people in the world that even knew who he was at that point. It just snowballed. All of that, just crazy snowball from there.
It's crazy how many people got their start. I say start, but you, Brian, Kyle, from that very first year of all that stuff going on. So it's just incredible, and because there was 41 of us, 41 cars that went that year. But just incredible how many people and where they're at now looking back at it.
Well, and fast forward after you'd won several times in the Chevy 2, and we get to the point where I had the idea to build a Brogy Roadster with a big block in it and turbos, ultra lightweight because there was no rules, and go out there and it wouldn't need any of the street equipment that was required for every other car. I had said literally as I left the racetrack on the last day of the first drag week and said to Daphne, a Brogy Roadster wins this son of a bitch with no trouble. And all those years I wanted to do it. And I came to you and I said, this is what I'm thinking. And you said, I don't want to do a Brogy Roadster, but let's do something else crazy. And that's when we came up with the idea for the S10. But, the thing that people don't understand is the motivation was not just to go out there and win this thing, was it?
No, that was the whole thing, is that there was a point nobody thought, I don't remember how fast anybody had been up to that point. Gosh, I don't even remember, because I had been I think maybe 680, maybe somebody had been, I don't remember. Bailey went out in 13 and ran with the fiberglass car. That was what was bringing a lot of it on that got me fired up, was they were letting in the complete composite body cars. And so that's why we did the S10 like we did with steel roof and quarters, just to basically prove a point. So yeah, we talked about it and kind of crunched some numbers around, and both of us felt like that this thing could run in the fives if we could manage to pull it off, if we got the right people involved and all the stars aligned, which God forbid they were far from aligned that week, but we made it through, and we still ran 616 on Saturday. Yep. And
I was
so we did well. I was happy.
Me and some friends of mine, we got up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and went to Thunder Valley the first year you guys had the truck. And we saw everybody racing, and then we come up there to see the truck. And we're like, where's it at? And we waited around, and like everybody's like, it's coming. And you guys roll in with like a piece of plywood and like a Honda generator on the back. And I mean, you both get out of the truck and everybody's excited. They're like, he's here, and the look on you guys' face was just like, shit, oh God.
Well, and the thing about it is, all of these accolades, all of the stress, all the trials and tribulations, all the thrashing, all of that to get to that point over the years.
Yeah.
Then for the no prep racing scene to just sort of blow up from there, and no prep Kings to start, right? No prep Kings starts, and the guys that are automatically getting into this are all 405 guys. They're all guys from the TV show, which makes sense. Obviously, Discovery Channel runs this thing. But there were a lot of people that were just, God, I'm going to make some enemies on this, but there were some guys that were just loudmouths on TV who really didn't have that much merit on the drag strip who were in, but guys like you had to really fight in order to get into the No Prep Kings series, especially because even though you were invited multiple times, you did not want to race on the actual street. So, you know, that whole side of things to get into the No Prep Kings world was a big struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really tough. I always told everybody I didn't want to go race on the street because I drove all my cars too much, and I didn't want some lady standing on the corner a block down the street holding her kids going, that's the SOB that's out there street racing all the time. Well, it kind of took just the opposite. Everybody really put their arms around the whole show and was really attracted to it. But I still didn't want to go out and race on the street, curbs, all that stuff. The flip side of it is, from a tuner, driver, builder, it was really intriguing and challenging. I mean, I wanted to go out there and race. I just told myself I wasn't going to do it. But if they ever put it on the racetrack, I'd be all in. So when they did bring in the No Prep King series, then I tried to get in, and they had that first $100,000 race at Bristol.
Yep.
I was there.
2 weeks after Armageddon, and I had run, and I'm going to make some enemies here. I had run Chief, and I think Sean. I had run a few of them down there, and I outrun Chief. They had a high roller race that there was 6 of us in, but somewhere along the lines, I ran Chief and put 2 cars on Chief. Well, lo and behold, about 4 days later, I was uninvited to the Bristol race, and nobody would give me an answer. I couldn't get anything out of anybody. Then the series started. I went down to Memphis for the first race and went to race the outlaw side of that, and still couldn't get into the race. No way, no how, wasn't happening, no answers. And so I think it was the 4th race at Tucson, they finally told me if I did something with the bedsides that they'd let me in. I'm like, okay, here we go. And so that's when I built the extension, built the schlong bed, and went to Tucson and got in on the 4th race. And like I said, it went good from there.
Well, and you know, they don't. I don't think that the No Prep Kings scene and the No Prep Kings world understood quite how dedicated to, you know, rules manipulation you really were. You know, they thought they were going to tell you that and you'd be done. And you and I talked, and it was like, just put some cardboard on the side of that son of a bitch. Who cares? You know what I mean? Want. Yeah.
I actually went down and cut the back end off of Sonoma, right, and attached that thing. But instead of painting it, spending any time messing with it, because I thought, there's no way when they see this thing that they're going to let me run. So I wasn't going to spend a bunch of money and time getting it painted and all that. So I found some gray tape and some silver tape and a little bit of rattle can for a pink stripe. And I taped that thing up, and that's what I showed up to Tucson with. And I ran the rest of season 1 with it just like that, just for that fact. But, yeah, I don't think, you know, and as it ended up, they didn't like different ways of looking at it. At the end of the day, after season 2, they didn't like the wheelbase. They didn't like the raised bed size. The point was finally said to me, once again, not a whole lot of people would talk about it, but it was finally brought up that they wanted something that was more stock appearing from the grandstands.
Yeah.
Once again, I said, okay, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, and so let me ask you, do you believe that there is this sort of elitism in the No Prep Kings or No Prep world in general? You know?
The thing about the No Prep King series, I really like the series. I like the people that race it. The fans are unbelievable. Plus you get a race for a lot of money.
Yep.
And so I enjoy all that. But at the end of the day, it's a television show. And it's, for me, being a true racer, sometimes it's really, really tough for me to wrap my head around that. And I've had discussions with Sam about it, the producer, and numerous times, and that's, sometimes I got to back up about 3 steps and wrap my head back around it. So, we keep track of points. We run for a series championship, and then the big thing about it is too, then when people watch it or listen to something like this, they think, oh, this is scripted or that's scripted. Well, I can tell you right now, none of that stuff is scripted. So if there's something that happens, be it me and Bobby or whoever else, that's full on happening.
So do you believe, or who deserves to be in No Prep Kings, and why are people getting into the no prep racing scene so much? Is it the money or the fame, or because they truly like no prep racing?
Well, I think the no prep king side of things, the thing that attracted me to it was the challenge of being able to go and tune the car, drive the car, and all that on that kind of a surface, because it's totally different than a normal NHRA race or a normal bracket race or God forbid a radial tire race. So for me, that was a lot of the draw to it, on top of the fact that you got to race for a lot of money. After being there, like I said, the fans are just incredible. So it's like going back to the days of the 80s of funny car match race days, when the promoters were making money, the fans were having fun, buying T-shirts. It's just a really good thing. Now, all the other no prep stuff, like Shannon Morgan's race, I mean, she had a series that was really going good before MPK, and I went to a few of those races, and she put a lot of people in the stands and had done real well. Unfortunately, I think No Prep Kings has really hurt her series a lot, taking away the spectators, taking away some sponsorships, and definitely taking away some of the big name racers. But I think more than anything, it was a challenge to a lot of people to go out and race a different type of series, and then it brought the fans, because here we go again, somebody's always waiting on a crash. Not that anybody wants to see it, but that's just human nature.
So, I know that you've been pretty frustrated at different times with different racers, and you've had some run-ins. You are not afraid to go scrapping with people, and it's one of the things I love about you. You and I have been in some situations together where I thought one of us was going to get our ass beat at some point or another. But you've been pretty vocal about some of your frustrations with the 405. You want to comment on that?
I like most of those guys. Most of them are a bunch of good guys, and they're a good, solid bunch of racers. It's funny though, they, when times they'll bitch at each other and just like they're dire enemies. But if something happens, those guys will circle the wagons and start throwing arrows in a heartbeat. So you just gotta, you gotta pay attention to what you're doing and what you say a little bit. But like I said, as a whole, it's a good group to go race with, 405 included.
I think some of it has to do with, sort of production almost protecting their own. I mean, you look like if you have a WWF event, or I guess it's WWE now, like there's some dude out there that's about 18 beers in that'll go down and kick the shit out of anybody in the ring, but they're not going to say, hey, come on down. You know what I mean? So they have their group, and some of that stuff, the cast, if you will, isn't necessarily responsible for some of the stuff that their positions they put in. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's just how it is. They're just protecting, 405 won't race Larson because they're scared of Larson. Well, Larson learned that it's hard. It's hard to, one, go to different tracks and race, but two, just make the race. I mean, that's a deal in its own. It's not like they let him in and all of a sudden he just won 4 in a row. It's on the struggle bus.
Oh, yeah, it's tough, and every year, keeps getting tougher. But once again, sometimes you just got to back up and look at it, because once again, it's first of all, it's a TV show, and it's about a drag race. It's not a drag race that they put on a TV show. It's the other way around.
Look who's joined us there, Barrett.
Yeah, that's my boy, old Boosted Ego, baby. What's up?
Well, what's happening?
So we got we've been joined by Larry Larson. If there's another homie that I like to hang out with, and he's been a big supporter of some of the races and no prep races I put on. My homie Eric Bain over here, a fellow beard man, Boosted Ego in the house. We got him, and there's a guy that's as dedicated. He just he's got a team around him, whether it's HPP or any of those guys. They just show up to win. And he's driven to win. He basically created a rule. There's not a lot of people that like that, but the man is deadly on the instant green tree, and is definitely, Larry can attest to it too. He put some people on the trailer on a car that should never even have been on the track. Yeah.
And then, that's what you got to do when you come, bring a little knife to a gunfight. But, it started out as having fun, and them not having enough cars to fill the class is really how it started. And that's how we got started racing the Mustang. So you got to take chances when you're outgunned, and that's all we did. And it turned out to be pretty fun.
So talk a little bit about the instant green and the controversy of reaction times and what have you in the instant green. There's a lot of people that don't understand how a Christmas tree works in reality, including most of the people lined up at one on a drag strip. And so it always causes a lot of arguments and stuff. So Eric, what are your thoughts, and what have you done to take advantage?
The instant green it basically, leaves a lot on the table. Now that I've played both sides of it, it really freaking sucks to get, instant green, basically someone leaving before the green and lose, but, because it's a half a second, up to, and sometimes more, depends on how late you are on the tree when you see green. So, but everyone has the same opportunity, if you say, but it does suck to go out like that, but it's just part of racing. Trying to keep it street-like, in my opinion.
Larry, you and I were at an Armageddon race where there was a whole lot of controversy about this, because the tree, like at most of the no prep events, was not actually instant green. It was that they just pulled the yellows out. There's a difference. When you pull the yellows out of the Christmas tree, when they would have come on, and then 0.4 of a second, the green light coming on. What people don't understand is that most timing systems between 0.7 and 1.1 seconds from the time that both cars are staged is when the tree will come down. And so basically, if you just do a 1/1000 and let go of the button, you're going to be, somewhere near it. And so it caused a lot of controversy with Mike Murillo and you and I and another bunch of people. What are your thoughts on the whole instant green world?
If it was instant green, I'd be all about it. But unfortunately, it's not. And like Eric says, it's part of that series. And just like he said, you can be at 0.4, maybe even 0.5 ahead of the other guy if you guess it just right. It's like I tell everybody, what aggravates me about it is that I go there to race. If I wanted to gamble, I'd go to Vegas. And that being said, I hate it when people guess. I mean, if your car's not fast enough, God forbid, go home and work on the damn thing. I mean, that's what the rest of us do. There's always going to be, it seemed like there was about 10% of the guys last year that were taking shots and stuff. And the rest of us were racing. And like I said, I know Eric got his ass busted once last year by, I don't know what the hell you did, left early for no good reason when you had somebody covered. I don't even remember who it was. I'm sure you did.
I did, and that's a long ride home, brother.
Well, and what other, that one is one that I will tell you, I don't know if anybody's told you this, and I don't know if the NPK guys will care, but the folks at CompuLink have revised their system and created an instant green format that anybody can use. You don't have to actually understand how to use the system. And so it will be a random generated instant green. Whether or not the series will use it or not, I don't know. But that is coming, just to let you know.
Really, I think the series needs a change up. And I really think the flashlight start or something like that would be better.
I volunteer to be the flashlight guy.
If they're trying
I'm in.
If they're trying to imitate the street and this and that, but I mean, and you could still use the finish line beams, to rule that out. But their tree sucks.
What I told them last year after that fiasco with Bobby is that if they want to make it more like the street, I'm all about it. I said, just use the tree just like you're using it. Don't change a thing there. Put a camera up there and do it just like the street, just like on the street. If that tire cracks, you're out.
Done. And it would, people at home would, at this point, the fourth season, we're going to start needing a change. And at this time, in my opinion, would be a good time to change it up on the light, or on the line, something just to keep it more interesting.
Why they don't just have the starter drop the tree. If 4 bulbs or somebody goes in deep, everybody's in, ready to go. Just have the starter flip it.
I got homies up there saying, "Hey, wait 2,000. Wait, they'll burn it. They'll burn everybody down because they don't know about turbo cars." The people up there working in trees.
That is the most crucial person on the facility is the starter.
Look, I've been on the street in Mexico, of course, with a flashlight on cash days events. Never, ever, ever had a problem with pulling people in. Nitrous car versus turbo car, blower car versus turbo car, pair of turbo cars. Everybody can come to an agreement as to how you want the starting line procedure to work. And if you use the stage bulbs on the Christmas tree and the finish line still, you could do it as a flashlight start. It would be very, very simple to do it. No problem.
I mean, that's how they do the roll race stuff.
But the thing that you've got right now is, this is what I told them, is that everything, you could leave it just exactly like it is right now. Just put a camera up there, just like they do at Armageddon, and watch for the crack of the tire. End of story. Because the thing about it now with the instant green, I say instant green, but with the way the tree works and with the real-time finish, you get a finish line result just as soon as the cars go across. And that way you can keep the race going, and you're not back looking at film at the other end. You're not worried about, okay, did this guy go in too deep or anything else? Because everything would be exactly like it is now. You still have the 7-second auto start engaged, everything else. So nobody can play any games. Everything, just don't change anything. Just put a camera up there and watch for the crack.
If the tire cracks before the green light, then you're out.
Because all 3 of the races that I lost, I would have won because they cracked the tire.
Is there any other rule that's nearly as controversial as the instant green to you guys? Yeah. I don't think so either. So let's get into, because we could talk about singles versus twins versus blowers versus all that, but let's talk about this one, because this one is just one that chaps certain people's ass. Who should run and be on No Prep Kings? Is the system fair? I mean, who should get the chance to be in the series?
I mean, I don't know who you want to chime in first, but
sounds like
first and foremost, it's a TV show. It's really not a race. You just go there to race. But at the same time, they're going to need some new faces. And just, I don't know. That's a tough question. It's a broad question. But obviously everyone thinks they're entitled to race. But a lot of people haven't put the work in and been through the ropes like a lot of us have.
So here's the thing then. Do you think, like, here's a scenario I've talked about with people and gotten mixed reviews on as well. And I didn't think of this, but let's say you take, the points, right? What the points are for the series, and you go, okay, the top 10 guys or whoever get to be in. And you got so many then down here that get to fight for a position. I know that that's basically how it works now, but the number of people that get to fight in or race their way in is only a couple of people. Should they change it to where half the field gets to race their way in so that people can pay those dues and fight their way into the big main event?
The problem, it's hard because the amount of races we have now and the amount of travel that it involves, and for the guys that are willing to make that sacrifice and spend that kind of time and money, there's probably 20, Eric, maybe, that probably try to make every one. But,
it definitely starts to narrow down there.
Yeah, and this year I think it's going to be even worse because they stacked another 4 races on us. They've got us everywhere from Palm Beach to Seattle to New Hampshire to Tucson. So I don't even see some of the contracted guys making it all this year.
I haven't missed a race since Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we only went there in season 1. I mean, that's commitment. Whether I had a car, I didn't have a car, I had oil pressure, or didn't have oil pressure, but I was racing with something. And there's not a whole, like Larry said, there's not a whole lot of guys that can say that. And so at some point, you got to take the loyalty of the show versus someone's character. And like Bobby, he ain't the fastest guy, but man, he's at every race and he's the character of the show. And guess what? He's going to have to race his way in and might not ever make the show again. And I don't know if that's right or not. He's been there from day one. Granted, he don't have unlimited funds to make his car as fast as it should be. And it is, it does need to be faster, but it's Bobby Scotty and, he's a part of the show. So I don't know. That's a catch-22, really.
I think boxing gloves. Let's use boxing gloves. I think it'd be great. I know some of y'all would fight just for the hell of it anyway. There should be a bonus at the end of every event. You get to call out somebody into the boxing ring after the shit that just went down for the rest of the weekend. Holy crap, can you imagine that? Dude, people would be beating each other's asses. Dude. Oh, well, hell yeah. Have you seen those giant arms? They're almost as big as mine.
Yeah, here they are. I mean,
the gyms is good.
I don't know. This year's going to be crazy. We're counting on going to Tucson with probably 60 to 70 racers trying to do a qualifier. And, man, if you have one bag showing there, you're going to have to race your way in Georgia. And I don't know, man. That's a mess, And, of course, everyone wants in, but where were all those people, 3 or 4 years ago? They're over there in the real world with Duck,
Yeah, where are there all those racers when a couple 3 races we only had 28 or 30 cars?
Exactly, and looking for class fillers.
People were racing daily drivers just to keep the points up.
But it ain't about the racers. It ain't about the fans. At this point, it's all it's a business, and that's what a lot of racers really have not comprehended yet. Is it's a business first, and a TV show second, and then later on down the line, about number 15 or 16, it's a race.
You hit on a pretty good one there, Bain. As a business, I mean, you're a sole proprietor, you're a business operator, you're sitting in your business right now. Larry, same way. Your very first race is going to be SGMP June 12th and 13th. Next weekend, you're going to have to be in Virginia Motorsports Park. And then the third weekend, back to back to back, you're going to have to go to Maple Grove in Pennsylvania. So what is that like as a business owner to put everything on hold just to make these races? Because you're not coming back to Texas from Georgia and turn around and drive all the way to Virginia.
Yeah, Larry will have to. He'll go back and forth.
I'll be flying. I will.
Well,
But that's where it goes. That's where it goes to the point where they don't care about us. They don't care about anything. They care about getting these races off, and no matter the circumstances, and that's what's going to happen.
17 other guys.
This whole pandemic deal really made it harder on the racers. It don't come down on any harder, but really the racers.
Well,
I feel sorry for you guys.
Yeah, they don't care who shows up. They just want racers there, and if you're not there,
absolutely, because everybody is waiting for their shot at it. And Eric, we appreciate it for sure. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Can we get you back on the show for another episode if we want to? Awesome. And when this is all done, maybe Barrett and I'll jump in the car together and we'll come road trip over there to Greenville and we'll drink a beer and hang out and check out the new place. Or you can come out to mine in Waxahachie and we'll see what's going on.
Get some beard products.
Yes.
Sounds good. But all that, it's what we choose to do. We enjoy doing it. And No Prep Kings is really good for the sport, really good for the kids at home. And, looking forward to making all the races.
We appreciate it. Good luck, brother. We'll see you there this year for sure. And again, thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. So our next guest on Drag Racing Friends is none other than Cali Mills. Hello, Cali.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
For those that are not familiar, yes, she is a rock star. Look at her on the magazines right there. The cover of Drag Illustrated, awesome. The photo was great. Also a very experienced drag racer. Your dad, Dwayne Mills, awesome dude. Everybody knows him for the Golden Gorilla. and a few years ago you came out with your own sort of matching ride, the Golden Panda, and really rolled into the drag racing world methodically. I was going to say slowly, but really it was methodically. You guys had a real family plan on how you were going to step up your performance game while going to college. There are some things about that people probably don't know that weren't necessarily very public, about how much you were racing based on your school schedule and all of those things and the school year. But you had some great success in the radial car. You've been driving all kinds of things and at all kinds of events, and have gone quicker and quicker. And how fast ultimately did you go in the Panda?
We had a personal best of 4:35 at Sweet 16. I guess it would be 2.0. I was hoping to make the field, but literally the cutoff was 4:34, I think, with like a 5. So I still think to this day that my dad paid the tuner to make me go in the second chance race because I went to the semis in that. But I mean, we'll see. I'm hoping to maybe get the Panda back out before Sweet 16 and then No Mercy. So hopefully we can even go be competitive in that type of racing too, as well as No Prep and No Prep Kings. So
your family has always been the radial prep family, though. And then your dad went, I don't know, crazy or got excited one day or whatever and called Larry Jeffers and said, let's put big tires on stuff and build more cars. And now you got a whole fleet of gold Camaros, and some of them with big tires and some with small tires and some with even bigger tires. So tell us about the current stable.
Okay, so we have Golden Panda, which is my X275 car. It's a small block, single turbo, X275 tire car. And then we have the Radial versus the World Golden Gorilla, which we just got it back from Larry Jeffers, I think last week or the week before. And it has big tires on it. And we're going to race it like Pro 275 and then some no prep events. Maybe see it on the street. You never know with my dad. He's kind of crazy. So, and then Kong. It's so bad I can't even keep track now of what car is what. But then we have Kong. I'm taking over the reins of it. I'm really excited. That all kind of came on a whim. It was like my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we were either going to have to step out of the no prep scene or I was going to have to step in. So I was like already wanting to last year, like right when I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm ready to race. Like I want to go racing. I work for them. So we kind of like work hard on the week. And then on the weekends we take off and go racing. So we were actually testing my Panda car and Dad was testing the Kong car at the same time. And I was like, so when are you going to let me drive that car? I was like, I think I'm ready. And he was like, well, he gave me a whole list of things that I had to learn how to do. And I actually was like, okay, well then we'll do them. So I got those checked off, and then we went from there on the Kong car. So the Kong and the Gorilla are pretty much the identical car, except the Gorilla now can fit radials and big tires on it. So I think the wheelbase is a little bit different. I think Kong's shorter than Gorilla. But pretty much that car, you can't tell the difference of it.
No, they are nearly identical. It's funny to see people because they just can't decide which one is what. Well, and it always makes me laugh.
Because people will get on Facebook or whatever and we'll post a video or something. And they're like arguing over who knows what car it is or the difference between the cars. And then there's those people that are like, no, it's the same car. And it's like, no, there's two different cars. They're totally different. And then there's the people that are like radial versus the world people that are just like, why are you not going radial versus the world? Why are you not radial racing? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, we're not ever going to stop radial racing. We're just kind of like, this is what's in right now. And I think the no prep scene is great for our sport. It brings a whole different side of racing. I mean, like NHRA and things like that is great. But I feel like my whole life I've felt like the door cars and, Camaro, you see Camaros and you can see Cadillacs and you can tell that that's what they are. And so it's just, people can, I'm trying to think of the word, people can see that and they like, it's relatable to me.
You can identify with the
rather
cars.
than, yes. And so that's why I like, my dad was like, do you want a dragster? Do you want to go bracket racing? No, I wanted a car. Like my 16th car, I was like, for my 16th birthday, he was like, what kind of car do you want? And I was like, oh no, just build me a race car. It's fine. So that's kind of how I see it. I want something that's relatable with everyone. And so I think that's something that's really cool about radial racing and no prep racing, that they're trying to keep the original cars original. But Radial versus the World has gotten out of hand, and if you want to run it, you've got to have a pro mod. So,
well, and let's talk a little bit about your racing history. You talked a little bit about this, and when I say your history, I mean why you are where you're at and what you want to do with No Prep Kings. So, there's no doubt that you and your family spend a lot of money on your drag racing operation. It's what you guys do, right? Like you said, you guys have a successful businesses that you run all week and then you race on the weekends. And there's always people that are racing on a huge budget and people that are racing on a small budget, and they're always arguing about it. And, and one doesn't like the other and vice versa and all those things. And there have been some people that have been critics of yours, and I know you've heard this, who don't believe that you deserve to be racing in X275 or RVW or at No Prep Kings or whatever it may be. But you really have put in all the effort, everything that you had to do in order to get to this point to race. So, how does that make you feel? What do you want to say to those people when you hear that?
I always know that there's going to be people that, don't think that people deserve whatever in whatever case it is. But I'm always the type of person that I want to be like that person that cheers people on. I want to see people do good. And that's something that I hold really close to my heart is, I mean, you've known me, Chad, for a long time, and I want to see people do good in the racing world, whether that be no prep, Radial versus the World. And on top of that, I want to see girls do better than boys. I mean, I'm always cheering for a girl. Like usually I find myself all the time cheering for another girl, because it seems to me like, I know we're all guys on here, but except for me, but it seems to me like when a girl does better, it's because their dad or their grandpa or someone was in racing before them that got them into racing. And that's the only reason why they have a name for themselves. And I think that that's wrong. Like I'm Lizzie, Kayla, I mean, Erica Enders, all these girls are very, very strong women. And not only in just like day-to-day life, but like in the racing world too. So I don't really let those people that say, oh, she's only in it because her dad or blah, 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 blah. Because let me tell you what, my dad would not do it if I didn't want to put in the work and go to the racetrack. I mean, I can't remember a time in my life when I wasn't at the track, whether that be, I started out four-wheeler racing, and I went to 2 races. My mom was like, she's too crazy to be four-wheeler racing. She needs to be with a cage around her. So then my dad actually took me to the sprint car races, and I told him, I'm like, Dad, either like we're going to have to get a bodyguard if we're going to be out here, because these people, I have a little temper on me. So if someone bumps into me, I'm like, I'm just going to pull over and I'm going to ram them. So that's not a good deal for me, because that's okay around here. So we're going to have to get a bodyguard, or this isn't my type of racing, because I like to keep my stuff nice, clean. I take care of my stuff. So I'm like, dirt track racing is not for me. Like I will go watch it any day of the week. Like if we're at home and there's no drag races going on, we'll be at the sprint car races. We're at the Chili Bowl. Because that's what my dad was into when he was younger. He worked on a sprint car. So then I went to the races and I was like, oh, I want a junior dragster. So I started out junior dragster racing when I was 8. And at that time, 8 was the very beginning time you could start.
Right.
And so we went up to Kansas, and we didn't even have a small trailer. Like we had a motorhome and a trailer, and we had 2 cars at the time. So one of the cars stayed in the trailer and the other one was in the shop. So we didn't have a trailer. So me and my dad took the pickup and we went to pick up this junior dragster. So we loaded it up in the back of the truck, I sat in the back. I watched it the entire time home. Like, I literally fell asleep with watching that car because I didn't want it to fall out. I don't even know. So, and that thing was literally, you pull started it. Like, you had to blow in the tank, the gas tank, and pull start it. So it was like basically a lawnmower motor, or a weed eater motor, I guess. But so I went out and made my first pass in that car. I had like the junior dragster I had plastic front wheels on it, which is like not allowed these days, but I still have my first race car too. It's out in the shop. But so I went out and made my first pass. I went like 15 seconds, like 40 mile an hour. And I was really excited and super happy. And my dad got down there to pick me up, and I was like he could tell I was happy, but I was a little bit bored because I told him, I was like, Dad, this is really fun, but I don't want to go that slow. Like, I was like, I have a go-kart at home that goes about as fast as this thing. And we have a really long straight driveway. So I used to make passes in my go-kart before I got into the junior dragsters. So I was like, this is fun, but I don't want to go this slow. So we kind of went outlaw-ish. We had another car. He bought it. We got a bigger motor, started going to like Mocan local tracks here. And racing that, and I did really well. And then after that, when I was in high school, and like I was racing every day of the weekend. Like, I had a grade check every Friday. I brought my grades home. If they were B's or better, we left Friday night, went out to Tulsa and tested Friday night. Saturday, hauled to Noble, and Noble used to run their junior dragster races. Like, they would run it in the morning, get all the junior dragsters done so we didn't have to deal with big cars, and then we would book it from Noble all the way to Mocan, Missouri, and run their Sunday race. And then that would be it, and then we'd race Sunday and come back home, and I go to school on Monday. But that's just how my whole life has been, is I've been at the racetrack, all through college. My friends, I was actually in a sorority, and my friends were like, how do you keep up? I was on the president's or dean's honor roll every semester. And my friends are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I just love it. That's what I do. That's what I've done my whole life. So, people can say what they want, say I didn't earn it, whatever. But I know in my heart that I truly care about the sport, and I want the sport to grow and be better. I want the sport to be better off than when I came in to it. I think a lot of young people, talking about street racing, things like that. My dad was he didn't really want to go street racing, as far as like when the first whole Street Outlaws street racing came out at 405, because we had the Gorilla and we were doing really good with it. There was one year, like 2016, I think we won every race that we pretty much went to. So we were kind of concentrating on that. And when NMCA dropped the series, and then No Prep Kings came out, and he had been working on the car, the Golden Kong, for a while. He kind of had a few setbacks with his health. And so, what we did last year was what we were planning on doing a year ago, a year ago from last year. So I guess it would be 2 years ago now. But, the timing was right, and we kind of took No Prep Kings, and we did pretty good on that. And I think that I can do it just as good as he did last year, with his guidance and the people that we have behind us. I definitely think we can.
Yeah, but now, you're on the outs, right? You're not in. So
No.
Are you going to events and racing your way into the show? Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're gonna go to the first few races. It's funny because I actually had a big when No Prep King schedule came out, we always go on a family vacation, just like us and the family, and it was June. We planned it in June because there was no Prep Kings races in June, so we had to change it up now. So I actually just finalized. I got our vacation switch all around because your life runs around racing. We all know that. So I got that changed up. We're gonna be at the first two races, for sure. And then the other ones, they're pretty far up over there. So we'll see how it goes. We're gonna go the first two and run that, and and then we'll hit and miss the rest of them, whichever ones we can, because right now is our busy time of the year. June, July is when we have to really hunker down and work. And but we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to count anything out. I mean, if they invite us, then we'll be there. If not, then we'll go to the next thing. It's not like we really liked racing last year with the No Prep King series. It was a great series to run. They were very timely. It's a Friday, Saturday race. So you got to travel home on Sunday or Monday, because we usually Sunday we would go find something fun to do around where we would go. So we just get a group of people and go who knows where on Sunday. We went last year. We went to Cedar Point with a few of the people, and it was a lot of fun. So we're into anything, really. I mean, we're not going to count anything out of our schedule. We got a lot of big stuff coming up that no one knows about, and I think that if they don't invite us into No Prep Kings, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I think that me and my family have a lot to bring into the show, and I think that either way, it's going to be a great season for them, and they're going to do what's best for their show and their racers, and I'm going to respect that.
You know, it's interesting to me because the amount of racing that you've done at a relatively young age, and the amount of, or the caliber of races that you've been around, right? Really mirrors a lot of what Larson has been around, right? So Larry's been, raced the pro mod world a lot of NHRA drag racing. You guys have seen a lot of sanctioning body racing. It's funny because No Prep Kings is supposed to be sort of the anti-sanctioning body, if you will, but they still are. I mean, they're still making rules. They're still putting on the races, all those things. Do you think that people, because we're now, 4 seasons into No Prep Kings, do you think that people are starting to look at them like they looked at NHRA or NMCA or any of those other sanctioning bodies that you guys have raced in the past?
I think that No Prep Kings is unlike anything I've ever witnessed before. When we went, the crowds were crazy. And I know I've been to Donald's races, and I'm just going to say this. No Prep Kings, every single place that we've been to has been packed. I've been to a lot of races and seen a lot of different things happen, and No Prep Kings definitely is one of the best series. And I would say, yes, it is a series that has come. I'm going to say that just because, one, they're bringing people into racing they don't even know. I would sit out. My main job was to sit out and sell T-shirts last year at the No Prep Kings events. And these people, they don't know anything about racing. They see the TV show and they want to come witness it, and they want to meet the people. And I think that's great. You're getting people that wouldn't normally be into racing. So I definitely say it's one of the better series. And I mean, like you said, they have rules, which we have to have rules to keep people safe and things like that. But as far as, I mean, you're saying No Prep Kings going to these huge facilities that are NHRA facilities, and they're packing them out even better than NHRA. And I hate to be that way, but it's just, like I said earlier, it's more relatable. I mean, they get to talk to the people that are on TV, and they see that as a TV show. And I mean, it's bringing tons of people in. And what I've noticed is we've always had the fan base on the radial side of things. And those are people that get it, they get racing, they know how it is, and they see the Street Outlaws and they're like, oh, well, that isn't real racing. That's not real racing. And then we come in and we're like, no, it is. It's just a different way of doing it. Just like, bracket racers have buybacks. Yeah. Some people would argue that's not real racing. I mean, it's just.
I was going to say that I can attest to some of the kind of the electricity and atmosphere and stuff to that. It was at the first time you guys debuted Golden Kong at San Antonio, one of the Bounty Hunters races. You're up there, the whole family up there, Ferris behind the wheel, and your dad's just kind of laser focused on the car. And I'm talking, and I tell him, turn around. And he's like, well, no, I'm like, turn around. And everyone is betting with a car that has just unloaded out of the trailer, never made a, passing competition per se. Yep. And there he's just like, you know, taken back. And I'm like, this is what we're talking about. The relatability. You're in the stands, you see a 69 Camaro, and you're like, I can build one of them things. You're in the stands of a funny car. You know, us and 25 other people couldn't even campaign our money together for one weekend to even qualify. You know, so it's that kind of stuff that makes this series so electrifying. And I was a part of it for a little while, and then I guess I made some decisions, and they replaced me, and that's no big deal. I kept on keeping on, but you know, some of this stuff is just crazy. They'll stand out in the rain, just like it's rain days. Normal people will be like, we're done, you know, cancel it. They're like, no, we're going to be dry between the hours of 6 and 7. We'll race then. And people stand out in the rain.
It's funny you mentioned that though, because like, so at No Prep Kings here at Ennis last year, Larry asked if I'd come out and help service the Cadillac. And so me and Cole and my dad came out, and we had a great time. It was fun. It was really fun for the weekend because I got to work on a car, and I didn't have to think about stuff, and I didn't have to be, I know this sounds funny, but I didn't have to be Chad, you know, on the mic and doing everything. And I just have a good time at the races, which I love doing. And so, I mean, we were turning this thing around quick. We were ready to go. We were hanging out with the spectators. I mean, Larry was signing autographs, and people were coming over and asking questions about the car. And the access
he got to show it off. That's what Larry likes to do.
Exactly. But it's the access to fans and the access that the fans have is at another level, you know? So I think that is one of the coolest things about this.
Yeah.
Do you remember that weekend that the local gal wanted to bring her HSV?
Yeah, we took all the pictures. Cole took all the photos.
Oh, that was so cool. And for her, that was something.
No, and like you said, like Callie said, it was relatable. This girl and her boyfriend showed up in her ATSV that is, I mean, nearly identical to the car that Larry's racing. I mean, it's beautiful. And she had seen it and, you know, talked about it. So we were able to get her a pass to park right there in the front next to the car. And so here's the street car and here's the caddy sitting next to each other, and people are just, you know, looking at both of them back and forth. It was really, really fun, and it was a different level. But what's really interesting to me about, you know, as we wrap this up, but what's really interesting to me about the No Prep King series and all of this new world that has sort of evolved is that from a fan perspective, like you said, you don't need to understand anything other than two cars are trying to get from here to there as quickly as possible, and one of them is going to get there first. As a racer, you have two sides. You have the hang out with the fans and relax and have fun perspective of it. And then there is this unbelievably intense, you know, sometimes resulting in fisticuffs side of the racing world. The intensity level is amazing. And so these two sides are sometimes crazy together. And I think that's why everybody loves this whole thing, you know?
Well, the other thing that's really cool about the No Prep King series also is that look at all the TV shows out there, be it Deadliest Catch, be it I don't care what it is, right? Nobody ever gets to meet who's on that show.
That's definitely something that's really cool.
But you can go buy a ticket and walk up and shake hands with Chief or whoever. And so that, like Kaley said, they don't have a clue about drag racing. They might not even not have a clue. But they get to come out there and buy a T-shirt from their hero or whoever that they're rooting for, and that means the world to those people and the kids.
Oh, yeah. Callie's seen it too. I remember being at the first event they had at Thunder Valley after, I think it was 1 or 2 episodes that aired of Street Outlaws. And there you would have, like, you know, Nick and everybody's looking at like, where are all these people coming from? Like, they're coming to see these people because they watch it on TV and they're like, they're going to be in town, and just pile up and go, you know? And that's what makes it, because you can relate to it. You be like, oh man, you know, my mother's uncle's brother had I can't remember what year your Cadillac is, but, you know, I'm sure some people out there were like, I got an S10 just like that. Or, you know, you hear with the Gorilla.
I have a really funny story.
Oh God,
about that because this one lady. So back when the Golden Gorilla, we had just we had bought it, but we kind of did some changes to it. I was young. This lady swore that this was her car. She's like, I had a 68 Camaro. It looked just like this. This lady was kind of crazy. She laid in front of the car while my dad was trying to load it. And I was like, I just remember because it was really late at night, and I think it was honestly the throwdown, one of the throwdowns in Tulsa. And the fans there are crazy. And this lady is laying in front of the car crying. She's a little intoxicated, but still, it's she's in her feels, but she's thinks that this is her car because it's relatable, like you were saying. And it's just that's something I'll never forget. And that's one of the that crazy story is one of the reasons why I love having cars that look like cars. Like my 275 car. I don't know if you guys have seen. I'm sure Chad, you've seen it, but it has a flat hood. And that's something that a lot of them don't have. And my dad's tried to get me to get rid of the flathead. He's like, you need to get rid of the flathead. You need to get a raised hood, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I like it because one, I can see out of it. And two, it looks kind of, it looks stock. That's cool, I think. And it's something different that no one else has. I mean, I can't think of another car out there that's an X275 that has a flat hood like my car. So,
and what's funny is when you're paired up next to another car that has all of the body mods and it's sitting down sitting on the rocker, and you're like, I like that one over there that looks like a real car.
Right, exactly. Well, I got to tell you, Barrett and I seriously appreciate you two being a part of the show this time and for giving us your opinions and telling us what you think about the no prep racing world. Larry, I know you're going to be running in a bunch of the series this year, and I wish you the best of luck. I'll come out and crew on the car some as well. And Kaley, definitely send our love to the family as well. I think the producers are probably only a little mad because we're only 20 minutes over time. Which
I've only disconnected 7 times.
I know, and that's kind of amazing because I never shut up. So, hey, but we're going to have both of you on again, I'm sure, after you guys get some races in. And so be safe, wear your masks, and all that stuff. Wash your hands, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us.